Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you're currently taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number one. Bit of a long question here. Nick, I'm a 55-year-old man and have been training on and off steroids for the last 5 years. I'm currently just running 2 cc's of testosterone for TRT dosage at once a week. I'd like to get a little bigger as I feel like I've stalled with my physique. My hemoglobin levels are very high, though, as are my creatine levels, and I do have a heart condition along with sleep apnea. What would be the safest steroids to take to add on another 10 pounds of muscle? Okay, just to go back to one thing I noticed in your question, you said you're running 2 cc's of testosterone for TRT dosage at once a week. 2 cc's of testosterone is not a TRT dosage. A TRT dosage is about 125 milligrams of testosterone a week, which would be even less than half of a full cc. So you're running like more than quadruple the amount of a TRT dosage. I mean, TRT dosages obviously range based on the individual, but I've personally never seen anyone go above 1 cc for TRT dosage. And even that to me is pushing it. That's about 200 to 250 milligrams of testosterone, depending on the testosterone you're using. So I would cut that back because 2 cc's is not TRT dosage. I promise you that. Um, the fact that your hemoglobin levels are high, that is concerning. Okay. The fact that your creatine levels are high, that's not concerning. That's actually very common. Now, most men who work out are going to have high creatine and creatinine levels. That's just normal. Okay. So you don't want to compare your blood work to the average sedentary person because their creatine levels will be in what we call normal range, whereas someone who does work out, it's going to be very different. So I wouldn't worry too much about the creatine levels. But as far as the hemoglobin levels being high, that's very concerning. On top of that, with a heart condition, not to mention of your age at 55 years old, you're not in your 20s. To me, going on a massive steroid cycle at this point would be ridiculous. Even going on a moderately high dosage of any steroids, anabolic steroids, to me would still be ridiculous. You want to use the less is best concept. If I were you, I would first cut your TRT dosage down to half a cc for the next, honestly, I would do that for at least 4 months. Let your receptors, regroup. Your receptors are in overdrive right now. So you want to actually take it down a notch. And in your case, take it down a big notch. You might actually notice that you feel better on less. Okay. Now, as far as safe steroids, well, there's no such thing as a safe steroid. Like, yes, there are steroids that have minimal side effects or lower side effects than others. Like a steroid like trenbolone, for example, that's going to have some pretty nasty side effects. Whereas a steroid like, say, Anavar, there's very low to no side effects, right? But again, side effects really depend on the individual, not necessarily just the dosage alone. You could be on something. I know some guys who will take 100 milligrams of testosterone and they'll get gyno. I mean, and I know other guys who run 1,000 milligrams of testosterone and they have no problems whatsoever. So it really depends on the person, your genetics, right? But in your case, given the fact that you do have a heart condition and that your hemoglobin levels are high, I wouldn't advise you to go on any steroids right now. And in fact, I would advise you to cut your testosterone down, okay? And go back to the basics, compound lifts, bench press, right? Heavy barbell squats. You can go for walking lunges, right? You can go for seated rows. You can go for T-bar rows, bent over barbell rows. The exercises that are going to build the most mass in conjunction with a nutritional plan that is sound and set. So you want to make sure your diet is dialed in. Okay. So it's not just the drugs. I've worked with a lot of people over the years who tell me I've hit a plateau. What should I go on? I'm like, hold on a second. Have you really hit a plateau? Have you really done everything you possibly can as a natural athlete? 9 times out of 10, when I look at someone's diet, when they work with me, if they're trying to put on muscle, they're not eating enough food. They're not training with enough volume, enough intensity. So when you start checking those boxes, you don't have to worry about the drugs. I promise you. Okay. The drugs are not the magic secret. Okay, what the magic secret is consistency and dedication, day in, day out, day in, day out. It's the shit that people don't want to do. Okay, the steroids, yes, the steroids are a crutch. The steroids will help you get faster results, absolutely. But the problem is when you come off the steroids, you don't keep those results. You lose those results. Okay. And if you don't believe me, look at a lot of the guys that used to compete back in the 90s and 2000s who were all on a bunch of gear. And now look at them now. They don't look anything like that. So if you want to sustain a realistic physique and lifestyle, train as a natural. Okay. So I'm not going to advise you to take any steroids. I don't think it's a good idea. And as I said, if I were you, I would take your testosterone levels, I'd cut them. Well, you're on 2 cc, so I'd take it down to 1 cc for the first few weeks, but then I'd cut that down to half a cc. And I'd go get some blood work done. Because, God, your testosterone levels, if you've been running 2 cc's of tests as a TRT dosage for the last 5 years, your testosterone levels must be astronomically high. So that's not good either, because if they're too high, you risk things like prostate cancer, right? You can have a stroke, heart attack. So that's not good either. So you don't want your testosterone levels to be ridiculously high. Okay. So cut your tests down, train as a natural to the best of your ability, and eat good, solid, clean food. Okay. That's how you put on muscle, and muscle that you're going to keep. All right. Okay. Nick, my wife has been trying to get me to come to a yoga class with her, as her yoga instructor claims that it will help increase my strength in the gym with weights. Is there any truth to this? Well, I don't know if there's any science backing this, but I can definitely see how incorporating yoga, stretching, Pilates will definitely help make you stronger in the gym. Okay. I've seen it myself. What happens is when a muscle is more flexible, more mobile, you're going to create greater range of motion, right? So if you are able to create greater range of motion, you're going to get to take that muscle to its full capability. So what's that going to mean? Well, it's going to mean that you're actually going to build a solid, lean, dense muscle, right? Whereas a lot of people, especially men, they're so tight that I see this all the time. They lack range of motion in the gym, whether they're bench pressing, not getting the bar all the way down to their chest, whether they're doing a bent over row and they're not really engaging their lats because their traps are so tight, their rhomboids are so tight, so they're rounding their shoulders. Okay. Shoulder presses. I see a lot of guys in the gym, they'll go all the way up, but they'll come back down to about head level. They won't go all the way back down to shoulder level because they lack that mobility and flexibility. So I can see how if you're able to loosen up those tendons and those muscle bellies and get rid of that scar tissue that's built up over years and years of, it could be even heavy lifting or just playing sports or even living a sedentary lifestyle, not being active enough. There's tons of ways how scar tissue forms. By incorporating things like yoga, like Pilates, like daily stretches into your life, that will definitely make a muscle, in my opinion, stronger because you're able to take it throughout full range of motion. So not only will it make the muscle stronger, but it's going to make the muscle look better, right? Because you are actually able to develop the entire muscle belly. It's like biceps. I see a lot of guys in the gym, they'll do bicep curls, right? They'll come up, but they don't go all the way down. And the reason they don't go all the way down is because they're not flexible enough with a weight to go all the way down. So you want to make sure you stretch out that muscle to the best of your ability. So I agree with your wife. If I were you, I would definitely be taking up at least 1 or 2 yoga sessions a week or Pilates, or just incorporating at least, 10, 15 minutes of stretches into your daily workout routine. I noticed that's made a huge difference in my workout regimen by incorporating daily stretches at the end of every workout. I'll do about 10, 15 minutes of static stretches. Okay. And I've noticed a huge difference. So you definitely want to keep yourself mobile and flexible, because if you don't, you're going to lack the range of motion. You're not going to be able to grow the muscle belly to the best of its ability. And therefore, you're not going to get stronger in the gym and you're not going to really receive optimal results. All right, next question. Nick, would it be better to run shorter distances for 6 days a week or longer distances for 3 days a week? I'd like to lose some body fat surrounding my midsection. I mean, rule of thumb for fat loss is when it comes to cardiovascular activity is long duration, low intensity. But here's the thing is that I personally don't like to rely on cardio to lose fat. I've talked about this in the past that I focus more on the dietary nutrition component than the actual cardiovascular activity. I think cardiovascular activity is excellent for your heart, for sure. It's good for your health, but I wouldn't rely on it as the sole purpose for burning fat. Okay. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're constantly relying on cardio to burn fat, you're going to constantly have to do cardio to burn fat. Right. Whereas if you're just doing cardio for overall heart maintenance and health, you can get away with doing 15, 20 minutes of just a brisk speed walk a day. That's essentially what I do. And I'm not obese. I don't have my body fat levels are most likely at this point in single digits. And the reason for that is because I follow a very good, solid nutritional plan. Okay, so there's a lot to be said when you're following a very dialed in diet where it's full of complex carbohydrates, healthy fats, and lean protein sources, right? So it goes back to that you can't outtrain a shitty diet. Now, in your case, if you're asking me which would work better for fat loss if you are going to rely on cardio, my recommendation would be to do the long duration, lower intensity. So 3 days a week, I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but if you're incorporating regular weightlifting into that program as well, and maybe doing some other form of physical activity, whether it be swimming or biking, you're going to lose fat. Okay. So it's again, though, I wouldn't rely on cardio to burn fat. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make. I'd be focused more on the dietary nutritional component. You'd be amazed if you clean up your diet. The things that you don't have to do, you do not have to do an hour or 2 hours of cardio a day. You don't have to spend your life in the gym. You're going to actually see results and you're going to feel results because you're going to feel better. You're going to feel more energetic. You're going to feel stronger in the gym. You're going to sleep better at night. You're going to recover better, right? So as long as you're following a clean diet, you're hydrating yourself, you're resting, you're sleeping, you should be able to lose fat without any issues whatsoever. Okay. Unless you have an issue with your thyroid, there should be no reason why you can't lose fat. Maybe a hormonal imbalance, but besides that, no. So I wouldn't rely on, like I said, one more time, I'm not going to really tell you to not do cardio, but I wouldn't rely on cardio for fat loss. I think that's a mistake. Still run, do the runs. Of course, running is not, I'm not against running, except for the fact that it has a lot of wear and tear on the hips and the knees, but I don't think it's bad for the heart. In fact, I think it's very good for the heart. Any cardiovascular activity is excellent for your heart. So whether you're biking, you're swimming, you're running, you're jogging, you're on the elliptical trainer, you're on the rowing machine at the gyms, all that stuff is good. Okay, so do it, but don't do it for the reason for fat loss. Get your diet dialed in. That's how you're going to lose fat, and that's how you're going to keep the fat off. And you're going to be able to keep it off without working harder. So again, it comes back down to working smarter, not harder. All right. Okay. Nick, what are some ways I can take in more water? I find it so boring to drink, and I know I don't drink enough of it. Would coconut water work as a substitute? I can easily drink 5 to 6 cans of that each day. Okay, well, you shouldn't be drinking 5 to 6 cans of coconut water each day. You have to be careful with coconut water, okay? Now, depending on the brand that you buy, there's a lot of coconut water out there that's really high in sugar because they add sugar to it. So one thing I tell my clients is if they're going to drink coconut water, look for the coconut water that per serving contains no more than 8 grams of sugar. Okay, because I'm telling you, you go to some of these brands and you'll see 21 to 25 to 28 grams of sugar for a single can. Okay, so I mean, at this point, you might as well just have a Coke. So you have to be careful with that. Yes, some of it's natural sugar, but some of it's also added sugar. So that's one thing. Coconut water is great because it's loaded in potassium, right? So that's one of the things I advise a lot of my guys and women, but a lot of my guys who like to go out and drink is to have a coconut water before they go to bed because it will help hydrate them more efficiently. With that being said, though, it's not just pure water. So you need to drink water on top of that. Now, if you're having a hard time getting in water, there's all kinds of things that you can add in. You can add in those flavored electrolytes. There's a company called Meal. They're like a sports drink brand. There's like 2 calories per drop. There's no sugar whatsoever. So it just adds a little bit more flavor. There's a product I use called Extend. And I've talked about that in the past. It's a BCA powder. They have it, if you're someone who is really against using aspartame, they have it in flavor form of stevia. I personally don't mind a little bit of aspartame. I don't think that a little bit of aspartame each day is dangerous for us. So I take the one that has some aspartame inside. And I'll drink usually probably about 1 to 2 liters of that per day. And I only use one small scoop in each liter. So that's how I get my water in. You have to remember too, if you're not hydrating yourself properly, as in at that 8 to 10 glasses of water each day, you're going to notice a lot of things with your body. You're going to notice that you feel more tired. Okay, you're going to notice that when you're in the gym, you're going to feel a lot weaker. You're going to also notice that you have less stamina, and you're going to notice that your sleep is not as good quality as you normally would get if you were hydrated. Okay, so all these become factors. You're also going to notice that you become more hungry, right? Because, if you're not putting water in your stomach, you're going to start to notice that, hey, something needs to be in my stomach, and people tend to eat more. So usually when I'm working with someone on a nutritional plan, I'll try to get them to consume, depending if it's a female or male, but anywhere from 1 to 3 liters of water each day. Okay. So water, as you know, we can't live without it. It's crucial. Okay. Food we can live without for a few days, but water, you can't go more than 2 days without it. Our bodies need it. So it's crucial that you get it in. And I always tell people, if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. Okay, so your body should never feel thirsty. Okay, you should never feel thirsty. You should be like feeling good, hydrated all day long. Okay, so that's why again I tell people, if you're having a hard time getting the water, get the flavored water, but make sure there's no sugar. Do not consume 6 to 8 cans of coconut water. I don't mind if people have like 1 can of coconut water a day or 1 can every few days. That's fine. But again, look for the brands that contain no more than 8 grams of sugar. They are out there, I promise you. You just have to look. They're going to be more expensive, but again, you get what you paid for. So if you're going to pay for cheap shit, you're going to be drinking cheap shit. Okay. So don't get the cheap shit. So don't substitute coconut water for real water. It's not the same thing. Okay. Again, I'm not against coconut water. Okay, it's great for potassium, but be careful too, because it's usually about 130 calories per can. So for that reason alone, you shouldn't be consuming 6 to 8 cans a day. It's too high in calories. So you don't need it. Go back to regular water. Use the extended I've talked about, the Mio soft drinks. There's a few other ones out there that people use. They're sold on Amazon. There's tons out there now. Just make sure, again, low in calories, no sugar. That's your best way to go. Okay. Okay. Nick, I'm curious as to why you only recommend green vegetables on your diet plan. Is there something wrong with tomatoes, carrots, and eggplant? There's nothing wrong with tomatoes, carrots, or eggplant. The reason I recommend green vegetables to people on their nutritional plans, well, first of all, I should say that the only people I recommend green vegetables to are my clients who are working with me for weight loss purposes. When I'm working with clients who are trying to add on weight, I say have any vegetable you want. I don't care if you have tomatoes, if you have carrots, if you have eggplant, like have whatever you want. Okay, have whatever you want. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to think. Like I have one client who loves to have cauliflower, and just like can eat cauliflower for every meal. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You're on a mass gaining plan. Go for it. Have as much cauliflower as you like. Here's the thing though, green vegetables are what we call fibrous carbohydrates. So fibrous carbohydrates, especially when you're dieting and you're in a caloric deficit, they're going to do two things. They're going to keep you regular, okay? Because fiber keeps you regular. If you don't get enough fiber in your diet, you're going to be constipated, right? So that's one thing it does. Another thing that fibrous carbohydrates will do is I'll actually allow you to feel fuller for a longer period of time. Fiber actually does help suppress appetite. Okay, it's kind of like the healthy fats. So that's why I usually recommend at least 2 to 3 servings of green vegetables on my clients who are trying to lose weight. Okay, that's really the only reason. But for my clients who are working with me, who are trying to gain weight or just for overall optimal health, and are like, I'm not trying to lose weight or gain weight. I just want to feel good and feel energized. I'll throw tomatoes on their plan. Absolutely. I have no problems with tomatoes whatsoever. Okay. But when it comes to the green vegetables, another great thing I did forget to mention is that I don't even count green vegetables as calories. Because they are fibrous carbohydrates, your body actually has to take up more energy to burn them. So when people say, well, how much spinach should I have? I'm like, I don't care. I mean, have 3, 4 cups, have 10 cups. I don't count them. So I might say in someone's plan 1 cup of spinach, but I go 1+ cup. And they'll say, what does that mean? I'm like, have as much as you like. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. You're not going to gain fat from having a whole bunch of spinach. Okay, so have as much as you like. But the thing is, because it contains a lot of fiber, most people can only consume so much asparagus, so much broccoli, so much spinach, right? So much just it's very difficult to do that, right? So that's why I recommend green vegetables for people who are on a weight loss program. But if you're not on a weight loss program, I really see nothing wrong with pretty much any vegetable. The only vegetable I have really issues with is are peas. Peas are pretty high in sugar. So those are the ones I usually tell people to avoid. Carrots aren't terrible. And I mean, really, at the end of the day, how many carrots are you going to have, right? So I should reiterate that I'm not against vegetables, but if you are on one of my weight loss programs, I will recommend that you follow a vegetable program with just, or a nutritional program with vegetables with just green veg, okay? And then when you get down to your desired weight loss goal and you're like, I kind of want to get off this program and just start incorporating more foods, more variety into my diet, by all means, throw in the tomatoes, right? I have no problem with that whatsoever. Okay, next question. Okay, Nick, the hotel I'll be staying at in 2 weeks doesn't have a gym, but I noticed online that it has dumbbells that go up to 50 pounds. The closest gym is a 30-minute drive away, so I prefer just to train at the hotel gym. My question is, should I even bother lifting weights if I only have dumbbells available to me, or should I just do cardio while I'm away and wait until I get back home to my usual gym? You can have amazing workouts with just free weights. I've done it so many times. Actually, I've had better workouts with just free weights than I've ever had with machines. I actually feel the muscles better. I actually feel more sore the next day. I've always said I feel like machines, especially hammer strength machines, I feel that they do part of the work for you. You don't like if you're doing like say Smith machine squats as opposed to barbell back squats, you don't have to focus on balancing that bar on your back. You have a machine that's doing it for you. So what happens then? Well, you're not working your stabilizers. So same can be said if you're doing a vertical chest press machine on a hammer strength machine, as opposed to a dumbbell press where you have to stabilize and you have to control and balance those weights. You ever watch a beginner with free weights? They're really shaky. It's like someone learning how to ride a bike, right? Because their stabilizers are off. They don't know it's a new range of motion for them. But once they get that mind to muscle connection and their body connects with the muscles that are supposed to be activated properly, the form becomes much better and the technique is executed much more efficiently. Okay. Um, I always tell clients opt for free weights over machines. Unless you're rehabbing an injury, like if you, I don't know, for some reason, let's say you dislocated your shoulder and you can't hold the barbell when you're squatting and you want to use the Smith machine because you don't really have to hold the bar with the Smith machine, you can just rest it on your traps. I can see that why that would help, yes. But if you're not injured and you're not rehabbing a muscle that's been torn or strained or broken, you should be using free weights. So to answer that question, you can get a great workout in from doing free weights alone. If you need help putting that program together, I'm happy to do it for you. Because I can tell you right now, there are, top of my head, at least 100 exercises that you can do with dumbbells alone that will hit every single muscle group, okay? Whether it's your shoulder presses, whether it's your chest presses, whether it's your bent over dumbbell rows, dumbbell bicep curls, dumbbell kickbacks for your triceps. Geez, you can even do dumbbell sumo squats for your quadriceps, straight leg deadlifts for your hamstrings. You can even do standing calf raises while holding dumbbells in your hands. So you can have a great workout with dumbbells only. Okay. You don't need the machines. The machines are like the bells and whistles. They're not necessary. They're nice and pretty to look at. Okay. But they're not necessary. The last, like, God, half a decade, I've been training in my gym. We don't have any machines. We have a few cables, but I stick to barbells and dumbbells. And I'll stick to a few cable exercises. But my primary focus is with barbells and dumbbells. And I've still been able to pretty much maintain my physique that I've had when I used to compete. Not much difference. So it can be done. Okay. It's about how you put your program together, how intense you train, because don't forget too, just because you have dumbbells doesn't necessarily mean that you can have a good workout, but it also means that you have to still train with the utmost amount of intensity, which means high volume. You have weights that go up to 50 pounds. You can make 50 pounds feel like 1,000 pounds if you train correctly. One way of doing that, like if you're doing your chest program, for example, I've talked about this in the past, you could pre-exhaust pec major by doing, dumbbell flies first, hitting pec minor, and then immediately go into pec major with presses. Try pressing 50-pound dumbbells after you've maxed out at 15 reps with dumbbell flies, let's say 25, 30-pound dumbbells. It becomes very challenging. So it's all about how you program your workouts, okay? So sequencing is very important. So once again, if you need help putting that together, I'm happy to help you. You can either DM me on my Instagram, @fitcosgrove_, or you can email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com. I put together training programs for people all the time, okay? And if you're not really sure as to what you have available to you, well, take a picture of the gym you're training at. In your case, it's a hotel gym, but someone else listening to this, you could be at a commercial gym. You're like, I don't know how to use this stuff. Send me the photos of your gym. I'll put together a program for you, and we'll make sure that you understand how to do every exercise on that program correctly. Okay? Because it's important to know how to do the exercises correctly, but I will remind people, free weights are always better than machines, hands down. All right. Okay. Let's see. Nick, I would like to add on more muscle, but I'm worried that if I increase the weight too much, that I'm going to be in severe pain. I suffered from chronic pain for years, and since lifting lighter weights, I felt really good, but feel as if I've hit a plateau with my body. Is there a way I can build more muscle without lifting heavier weights? Absolutely. But here's the thing. I always tell my clients is don't be afraid to lift heavier weights. Now, I don't mean ridiculously heavy weights, but if you're doing shoulder presses with 25-pound dumbbells and you do 15 reps and it's pretty easy, it's time to increase your weight. And I always tell people on a scale, if you go from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very easy, 10 being very difficult, your set should feel like a 7 or 8. It shouldn't feel like a 10 and it shouldn't feel like a 1. Okay. The reason it shouldn't feel like a 10, well, if all your sets feel like 10s, something's going to break. Okay. And you're going to strain your joints, your ligaments, your tendons. You don't need every set to feel like a 10. Okay. There was an old Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates, that used to train with maximum intensity and would do like 2 or 3 sets for a muscle group, and he'd hit it really hard, really intense, 6 to 8 reps. Now, he had a great physique, but he also was only 6-time Mr. Olympia because he had to retire from injuries. So again, if you want to last in this game, you got to train with intelligence. I talked about that last week about approaching each workout methodically, right? So it's not smart just to keep increasing your weight because you want to get bigger. That's not the only way. And I've talked about this in the past. That's not the only way to get bigger. Okay. So if you want to get bigger, it comes back to dietary nutrition. Okay. Proper supplement protocol. And I don't mean steroids, proper supplements protocol, like taking things like whey protein isolate, creatine, vitamin D, vitamin C, omega-3s, zinc. All these things help with building muscle and protein synthesis. Okay. So you can do it naturally. Now, again, though, you don't want to be lifting ridiculously light. In your case, when you talk about chronic pain, that was years ago. You may have changed now. Now that you're training with weights, your body may have changed over the years. So what I would say to you is take the risk and slowly start to bump up your weights. Not crazy. If that person that's shoulder pressing 25-pound dumbbells, take them up to 30-pound dumbbells. If your gym goes up in pound increments of 2 pounds, most gyms go up by 5-pound increments with dumbbells, especially after they hit 20 pounds. But if your gym goes up to 27-pound dumbbells, do that first. It's not like you're just going to wake up the next day and be like, oh my God, I can't move because I lifted 5 pounds more. That doesn't work like that, right? So you have to like step out of your comfort zone and try it and see. And one thing I always tell people too is don't do a complete 180 in your workout. You could go into the gym and say, today I'm going to train legs and I've been squatting 300 pounds, but I'm going to try to squat for 310 pounds today. But I'm not going to increase anything else. I just want to focus on my squats today. And you know what? Maybe on my next exercise, if it's leg press, if I'm able to squat that 310, I'm actually going to take my leg press down today. Kind of like, I went really heavy or heavier on my squats, so I'm going to go lighter on my leg press. And that way it's not too much for the body. Okay. So that's one way to approach it too. Say, I'm only going to go up on one exercise for this workout. Do it and then move on to your regular weights, your regular routine. And the next time you come back, say, I felt pretty good the next day. Why don't I try to increase my weights on 2 exercises and then 3 and so on? Okay. So this is what I try to tell, because I have a lot of clients who are hesitant to go heavier, even though I can tell them, I say, hey, look, that set's looking really easy for you. In my opinion, you're at this point, you're just lifting air. So let's challenge the muscle. You're here to change, transform your physique, improve your health, become stronger and more fit. Challenge yourself. Okay. No, it doesn't have to be ridiculously heavy weight, but if I'm looking at someone and they're easily able to have a conversation with me while they're doing a bench press, I'm like, that weight's way too light. You shouldn't be able to talk to me unless you're doing maybe a warm-up set. But if you're doing a working set, there's no reason you should be able to talk to me about the hockey game or your date last night while you're bench pressing or you're curling or you're squatting. There's no way. And if you're able to do that, the weight's too light for you. Okay. And you're not going to get results from that because you're not challenging the muscle. It's not because the weight's too light. It's because you're not challenging the muscle. Challenge the muscle. Moderately heavy weights will work. Minimal rest periods will work better. Maximum intensity will work the best. Okay. Nick, I'm about a week into starting your 12-week diet and training program, and I'm noticing a huge difference in my libido. The problem is that I'm constantly feeling aroused. Is this normal, and will my body eventually settle down once it adjusts to the program? I'm just finding it hard to focus. You know what? It's so common. I work with a lot of people when they start exercising more regularly and they're following a clean diet. One of the first things they notice is that their libido starts to go higher and higher. Okay, it's so common. And that's for multiple reasons. But one, if you're a guy, exercising regularly helps release more testosterone into the body. So if you're an active male who's lifting weights regularly, you're doing cardiovascular activity, and you're following a clean, solid diet plan, guess what? You're going to have more testosterone, and more testosterone usually, not all the time, but usually equates to a higher sex drive. Okay. With women, it's the same thing because women do have testosterone. When they work out, they actually release more testosterone. So a lot of women who work out regularly, again, follow a cardiovascular program, follow a solid nutritional plan, they notice an increase in libido too. It's quite normal. Okay. The only thing in my recommendation is if you're feeling aroused is have more sex. Hopefully you have a partner, and if you don't, go find a partner. But have more sex. I mean, I've talked about this in the past. In my opinion, sex is really good for us. It's really healthy. And if you have a partner, in my opinion, you should be having it on a regular basis. Does it have to be every day? No, but preferably. Yes, I think it's great. It's not only is it good for your physical health, it's good for your mental health. So I see nothing wrong with this. If you can't focus, find a way to release that. Okay, there's ways. And I don't need to tell you those ways, but if you have a partner, even better, right? So it is normal. I wouldn't think of that as a problem. I think as your body adjusts to the program and nutritional plan, what you feel is a high libido will just become like a natural feeling to you. It's like, oh, yeah, I have a naturally high libido. And that constant state of being aroused will just, in my opinion, it just becomes somewhat normal and you learn to live with it. Okay. But I promise you, it's very common. You talk to most people who work out on a regular basis, and they'll tell you they have a very high libido. It's super common with not just men, but both men and women. So I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that's great. I think it's healthy. It's worse if you don't have a high libido, right? If you have a low sex drive and you're living a sedentary lifestyle and you're always feeling tired and sluggish, and if you're a guy, if you have problems getting it up, or if you're a woman, you have a hard time getting aroused. So a lot of people who don't work out, they feel like that's normal, and that's not normal, right? You should feel good. You should have a high libido. You should feel energized. So if you don't feel those things and you are working out regularly and you are exercising regularly, then you might want to go talk to your doctor, get some blood work done. That's my recommendation, or even better, a hormone specialist. Get your estrogen levels checked, get your testosterone levels checked. These things are important to do, especially as you get older. Okay. So I think a lot of people just accept as they get older, like, oh, I don't feel that my sex drive isn't as high as it used to be, but that's normal. That's not normal. In my opinion, that's not normal. You should always feel like you have high energy, high sex drive. I think these things are good for both men and women. I see nothing wrong with that whatsoever. All right. Okay. Last question. Nick, could you please tell me how I can build a bigger and more muscular chest? I feel like I've tried everything and can even flat bench 225 pounds for 10 reps, yet my chest still looks underdeveloped. My current chest workout consists of flat barbell bench press, decline barbell bench press, and flat dumbbell flies. I do 4 sets of each exercise and keep my reps between 6 to 10. Okay, so a few things that I see red flags here is that I noticed that with your chest routine, you haven't incorporated any incline presses whatsoever. Okay? And that to me is a huge mistake. You have to remember the upper chest makes up 80% of your pectoralis major, 80%. So for you to neglect the upper chest, that's a huge mistake. In fact, I always have my clients, whether I'm working with a man or a woman, if I want to develop the pectoralis major, I have them start the workout off with incline either dumbbell presses or barbell presses. Usually I incorporate both in the program, but I'll start with one or the other. And I don't even move on to flat press until the second exercise. Or if we're doing circuit training, it'll be the second circuit. I never start with anyone with flat barbell press. I've talked about that in the past. I feel like that's very dangerous on the anterior deltoid. So I like to warm people up with incline presses first, because as I mentioned, pectoralis major, 80% is located up here. Okay. So what I'd recommend you do is actually change up your workout, take out the decline presses, and I'll get to that in a second, incorporate at least two, I would recommend 3 incline presses. So like a low incline barbell press, a high incline dumbbell press, and a low incline dumbbell fly. Take out the flat dumbbell flies for a few weeks and throw in low incline flies instead. As far as decline presses are concerned, if you look at my online coaching app, you'll notice on all my chest programs, I never include decline presses. I'm a firm believer that decline presses are ridiculously dangerous on the rotator cuffs. If you watch people decline press, the range of motion is so limited. And if anything, you rarely see their chest doing any work whatsoever. But what you do see is a lot of shoulder activation, and especially in the rotator cuffs. So all I see when I've seen people decline press is joint activation. I never see any muscle activation whatsoever. So this is why I advise people not to do decline presses. Now, that's my belief. That's my opinion. If you're a client of mine, I'm not going to ask you to do decline presses. If you want to do them, as you feel them and you feel like you're getting great results, do them. But in your case, you feel like your chest is underdeveloped. So my recommendation, take them out. Don't keep doing the same thing over and over again if it's not working, right? That really is the definition of insanity. Finally, I noticed again, you're keeping your reps between 6 to 10. And I've talked about this in the past. Guys and women, you do not need to be doing these single digits bullshit. Single digits are for powerlifters. The only time I've ever had people do single digits is when they're doing a drop set with me. And I'm like, you know what? You just knocked out 10 reps and you took it to failure. Let's do 5 more reps, cut the weight in half, and then that's it. So, but it's immediately because it's drop set. Okay. But that's the only time I'll have people doing single digit reps. Single digit reps, they're not great for building solid, lean, dense muscle. We know that muscle responds well to higher repetitions. And by higher repetitions, I mean that 10 to 15 rep range, double digits. Okay. Again, I talked about this in the past, but I'll say it again. With double digit reps, you're going to build solid, lean, dense muscle. You're going to preserve your joints. You're going to save your tendons. So you're going to last longer in this game. Okay. If you're injured, you can't train. If you can't train, you're going to go back to looking like a bag of shit. So if you want to train on a regular basis and avoid injury at all costs, keep your reps in double digits. My chest workout program that I'd recommend for someone like yourself, I'd start off with a low incline barbell press. I would throw in a flat barbell press, leave that in. Flat barbell press is great, but put it as your second exercise. Then throw in a high incline dumbbell press, then go back to a low incline dumbbell fly. And if you want to throw in one more flying motion, I'm a big fan of cable crossovers. I think that's a great exercise. This is a finishing movement for the chest. And don't forget drop sets. Drop sets are great. I always throw in a drop set in my chest workout. I always throw a drop set as my last set. So I do 5 sets of incline bench press. My last set, let's say I get 10 reps. I'll take the weight down immediately after that, drop it in half, and I'll do 10 more reps. It's for a true burnout. That's a great way to help build your chest. So that's my recommendation. Take it as is, but I would get rid of those decline presses because I really think decline presses cause more harm than good. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, June the 11th, or sorry, Monday, June the 10th. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplementation protocol, please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel. Thank you for supporting my in-house and online coaching business. I really do appreciate all the support and feedback I get on a weekly basis. Thank you all, and I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.